Good morning and welcome to our 1st of December Capital Planning Committee meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. It's now 7:03. Yeah. And we have all of our members here, so we easily have a quorum. I don't have the minutes of the last meeting to review. I apologize for that. So we'll get right into the business, which is going through the 4 requests we have that will appear before the, actually we're going to be the annual town meeting, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, our annual town meeting. So, now, I'm going to assume that everybody got a copy of these and okay. So let's start in the same order we have in the minutes. And we have the police cruiser. This is part of the normal, it's our normal refresh of that fleet, and so this is something that we have been doing every year for the past 5 years.
Yep. I think we fully established the rotation 4 years ago, and unlike a lot of the other articles, this is funded through our operating budget. So it's on the tax rate, it's through raise and appropriate.
Okay.
So useful life is less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, some of the vehicles do get shuttled off to other uses after they're done as police cruisers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've established that 3 years is the most economical one. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to borrow your rating sheets because I only made 4 copies.
Do you expect us to rate them at this meeting? And
Well,
what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, what I'd like to do, if we don't rate them at this meeting, then let's set up another meeting in a couple of weeks to bring back, just come back, rate them, we can have a quick meeting. And then,
Well, I mean, like, you know, we have to
Or
discuss them
questions.
and get input, output, but if we want to rate them, we can rate them, I mean, if that's your wish.
well, if there are, I think certainly with the cruiser, we could probably rate that one.
Well, the question,
We're going to have some questions.
we had some issues last time, I think it was brought up at this meeting to the chief as to, you know, is there going to be a hiatus yet built into the refresh program? And I don't know, I mean, we talked about it, how many, you know, I mean, right now, we did get a list of how many we have and what, you know, and the circumstances.
Would you like an updated list? Would
I
that be
think so.
helpful as you're
I believe it's, you know, as we look at capital requirements, it's consistent to understand what the fleet is, what, you know, and I know the justification was valid as to number of miles and things of that nature, and we have no objection, but you know, what's the fleet looking like, you know, any unusual circumstances affecting the operation of the fleet, I don't know.
Do you want, Mr. Chairman, to set up appointments for the department heads to come in? Or?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is set up for the next meeting to have them come in. But what I'd like to do is give them a list of questions that we will have for them so they can come in prepared.
Great.
Okay? So an updated list of the police fleet, and we'd be looking for, is there a gap, or is this going to be an ongoing request?
I thought year 5 was discussed as a potential gap here in the past. I think that,
Yes, I think it was essentially your comments that, you know, at some point, you know, you know, consistent, just to say, that, you know, the new types of vehicles, we know we had to kind of move from the cruiser, or the
Sedan to the SUV.
yes, now I think we're an all SUV fleet, I think,
I think we have one left.
yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, is this replacing that, you know, that type of thing?
Mhm.
And I think, you know, consistent with this committee's mandate, to have the individuals come periodically, once a year, it's not necessarily a big mandate.
No,
to-
they'd be happy to.
to justify, and we got such good feedback last year. I was very impressed with what we received from all department heads in justification, and it kind of took just paperwork out of it, you know. They came back with
They
the
came back
highway
with
department
a
came
lot.
back, and then they gave us the list of all, and, you know, and what their plans were, and I thought it was in that mandate that we
Very
would see.
helpful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that being said, we'll go through these and see if we want to bring people back, but we'll talk to Chief Riley, invite him in. Basically, we're gonna look for an updated list from the police of their fleet, and we'll be asking if there is in fact going to be a gap year and when that might be.
Current mileage is Bradford.
Yep, that's all on the fleet schedule, yep.
Okay, our next one is the Mantor Field House, by far the largest of our requests. I've gone through this, as I'm sure you have. A lot of stuff in here is things that we have seen before. The request is for a $200,000 amount to finish the field house, and they've included some indications that it, after a period of time, is going to pay for that investment, or pay back the town for that investment, plus carry itself. I went through here, had some questions. I did talk to one of the people because there were a few inconsistencies. What we can do is have them come in, or have a representative come in and talk to us about some of the inconsistencies that I've seen. What is your pleasure or questions?
Well, since it's a new committee, and I think, you know, it would be just to get acquainted who's running it, and I think they did a good job producing this document as compared to what we've seen in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I thought there was much, and I thought there was a lot more investment in their time and effort into justifying it. Compliments to them for that. And now just to get the dialogue of who is it we're talking to, and so on and so forth would be my desire. So you can say, we're going to say yes to somebody that we figure will trust it.
Yeah, I have to say, they reached out to us. Frank Brimley and I met with them a couple of times to try and get them headed in the right direction. And I think they did pretty well. They're still working on it. They recognize that they, as a new committee, have a lot of things to put together to...
So, based on your meeting with them, are you convinced that this amount is well thought through and
Most
not
reasonable?
gold plate? I mean,
It
just
didn't come
$200,000
from
for.
them. That number came from the design engineers as a
Yeah.
high-end number. That's generally what they do. And then, once we obtain approval of town meeting, we have to go out for a competitive bid. So much like the sewer connection that we had done previously, you know, we were looking at $700,000 initially, and the actual bids came in at $443. That was a pretty significant difference, but there is a, you know.
So sort of a
yeah,
not to exceed.
And it is
Yeah,
a
'cause
not to exceed at town meeting for sure, and that was just their high-end estimate. The engineers, Savoy, I believe it was, that did this, yeah.
It just sounds like an awful lot of money to me for a few bathrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, have you been in the building?
No.
Yeah, if you've been in the building, you would
Yeah.
add an exclamation point to your sentiment.
Sure.
Is this,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a tiny building.
It's a small.
And it's, for all intents and purposes, with the exception of bathrooms, I mean, it's about there. I mean, the business plan must have radically changed with the new committee, I'm assuming, because the old
Yeah.
committee had no intent of even, like, really selling concessions. They weren't gonna put a kitchen in there.
Well,
And the idea that you could give back the 200K some other revenue would have been preposterous under the old business plan. So I'm assuming it changed.
It has
You know.
changed. They're looking at doing some more aggressive things, and they're actually looking at things that would not have occurred without a building there. and a-
This brings me to one of my soft points, is that they have future considerations. And I think it's part of what we should understand, what's the future of the field in total. I mean, you know, there may be some issues relative to parking, hot topping. There may be some other things in their mind's eye that they would like to do. Because I remember hearing just a comment that sensitized me. They wanted to get this over so they could move on to other things. And my question, well, what other things are we talking about? And I think it's consistent to understand what those other things are. Whether they're increasing services, whether it's increase in activities, whether they want to hold more events there, things along those lines. But you also say, what's the future impact fiscally to flushing out those things as well? You know, are we talking hot top in the parking lot? Are we talking access to different parts of the field that doesn't exist? And it doesn't mean that it precludes the decision to fund Manton Field. It just says, eyes wide open, we want to know what their grand plan is.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't think, you know, and the other thing is from a fiscal point of view, and you're absolutely correct, we made some decisions to involve the town in mowing the fields. And I'd like to know what the offset fiscally was from what they paid, because they are very aggressive in mowing and taking care of their
Right.
fields, do a tremendous job. But what savings, if any, has been incurred, and, you know, as that, you know, are there other economies of scale to say, you know, do we as a town, because of their ability with the highway department, can take on more responsibilities?
To add to your point, there are unknowns that still need to, that are probably going to be fleshed out over the course of the next year or two, which are the addition of the Triton Field as a rental field
Mhm.
for off time. That it's a reasonable supposition that is going to draw from their revenue, which I believe previously sat at about 44K annually.
Mhm.
Got a whole nice new turf field, a few hundred yards down the road, which is, as I understand it, is going to be up for rental.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
So, you know, can the market handle that? Well, does that not affect their revenue number anyway? I'm sure they're thinking that's definitely considered.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. And one of the other things that came up when they talked about moving on to other things is that the town mandate for them is not just Mantor Field. It's all of the playing field. So it's the upper green, lower green, the field over by the library, and also Kent's Way. So,
Yeah, this is consistent with what occurs. I mean, people from management meet with these department heads and I think put them on the right track. The other thing is you'd like to be exposed to what those conversations are all about. Like you just said, their mandate is for other fields. It's not necessarily part of this decision matrix for Mantor Field, but all of a sudden they're looking at other things, and so that's part of my thought process is what else are we looking at?
sure.
And I agree, is that, you know, by spreading the funds across multiple fields and multiple site locations is a good thing, rather than focusing it all on, does this mean that's it? Or is it going to be a consistent capital requirement year after year?
Good questions. Okay, we will invite them in for our next meeting, and we're going to talk about just a couple of things, the field house activities, basically a SWOT analysis of what else is coming online as far as competing properties within the town and their market. Okay, and also some of the other things that they have on their plate as far as the rest of the town properties are concerned. Okay. Moving on to the Highway Department mower. This one, and James had been in last year and basically set this up for his whole sheet, which is our last page of what they have and what they want to replace as they go along. So I think
This is the same implement he was talking about.
Yeah.
Then, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
right.
I thought we put that to bed, huh? Or whatever.
No, we put a different one to bed last year.
Last year.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
So this is an addition, this is an additional?
This is another mower.
Another replacement.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what they've got is a 54-inch mower, they're going to a 61-inch mower. What they got last year was a larger mower that can't do some of the smaller areas that they do mow.
Mhm.
And I have to say, they have taken up, they've taken back more of the maintenance in the town than they were doing a few years ago.
Oh, significantly.
Yeah,
You
so-
mean taking it back from private contractors to town
No.
employees?
No,
No?
they were not doing it.
Oh,
In the
okay.
major case, they did.
In the major case, it
they
was
In the major case, they did.
privately.
Yeah.
But, for instance, a lot of little islands around the town
Yeah.
that they used to take care of, they had dropped from the maintenance, and for instance, the one right across from me, either I would take care of it, or the person across the street would take care of it, and then suddenly they were back doing it again.
Say somewhere around 2010, 2011, they had discontinued mowing a lot of town-owned property.
Yep.
And we got a number of complaints about that over the years. So they've been able to, we've increased the workforce by one person, and they've been able to take that back on, so
Well, they've gotten more efficient.
tremendously more efficient. Yeah. Do a great job.
So do you want to invite James in? I think he gave us a really good rundown of their capital needs the last time he was here.
This is replacing an existing machine, their workforce is up by one. They're picking up more stuff than they used to, I don't know, I mean.
I think it's consistent. If we can tolerate a 50-half-hour presentation from them on an annualized basis.
We'll have
I
to
think
give
it
them a
would-
raise, I don't
You know,
know.
it's
Good
good
job.
possible. You say, well, you see, the thing that's missing in these things, to me, is what else is out there next year? What do we look, what is the forecast? And I understand that part and parcel of the capital planning requirements was what assets do we hold and how we're forecasting them. Because it's easy to say, oh, I have no problem, we got the capital, let's do it. But then again, next year, we don't know whether he's forecasting that dump truck replacement.
We just,
Yeah,
that
that type of.
help. On the actual sheets, you have to physical.
And when he's here, I mean, I think that this committee has a supportive nature as well, that it's not just restrictive, say we're holding the person, but we want to support them, say, your plans are valid, you know, we want to be in a position to allocate the capital what's required. But what other surprise? I don't know.
You and Frank both bring up a really good point about the future expenditures. We've, over the last couple of years, gotten a really solid handle on the capital replacements, and we've done a tremendous job in addressing our facilities and our equipment and putting the rotations in place. But the piece that's been lacking is the much more long-term look at what we're going to be facing. So about 2 weeks ago, I had been notified that I had received some grant funding and from the state as part of one of the governor's new initiatives, reaching out to the communities, and we got about $15,000 to work with the Ed Collins Center. I don't know if you're familiar, they do a lot of municipal work, and they're going to help us as far as just updating our forms, our bylaws, looking at best practices, seeing if there's anything we should be doing. So I had them come in, we had an initial kickoff meeting and presented them with everything that we had done. And the great news is they were like, this is amazing. Usually when we come into a community, they don't have anything. So they were really impressed with the work of this committee to date, what we'd already accomplished. And, you know, said as well that the only piece that we really need to work on is the long-term piece. So I've been working with the department managers, putting together, we're going out, you know, we're looking at 20 years. by the time you get past 10, it's,
Fuzzy.
it's
Yeah.
really fuzzy, but the part of the exercise is that the managers, every single year, will update that 20-year plan. So they can look at this mower and say, well, it was scheduled for replacement this year, but it's, we've taken really good care of it, it's in good shape, we may go another 2 years. So every year, they're constantly looking at it, they're pushing things out, or in some cases, geez, that didn't last as long as we had planned, moving it forward. So that'll help me in financing, in the finance committee, so.
One of the other things is, it's imperative in my way of thinking is to convey to the managers can change how much the town is invested in that department.
Yep.
By saying, for example, we have purchased for you, and we did get a sense, I was very well received last year with Jim saying, we invested in the rubber tire excavator, how's it working out? Is it the right things? And, we put in a new dump truck, and, and you just kind of say, after a period, we've invested close to $500,000 in the highway department in the last 2 years. And that is a significant capital investment, and we have to say, not just your point, let's forecast properly, but we have invested, and it's good to know that the town's put that kind of money in those departments efficiently, so they're not keeping things together by, the old proverbial,
The rubber bands.
Yeah.
Bubble gum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to be doing a very good job. They certainly have been providing more services. There's no question about that. So we will invite James to come back and talk with us at our next meeting. And lastly, we have, and I'm not sure about this project, but this was a petition to bring this before us. And this is the floor at the little gym in Newbury Elementary.
It's a little unusual to have a capital request come through a petition in that manner. Generally, what we'd see is the administration of the school would come to us and say, okay, we're having a problem with our roof leaking, or anything building envelope related is generally our responsibility. And since we don't even have a lease document for this facility in place currently, there's even a question on whose responsibility this is.
That was my question, my first question.
This seems to be 180 degrees as to where we're supposedly headed.
Agreed.
We were, at last dance, as far as I know, we were responsible for the exterior and
Building envelope.
but we're trying to make strides towards folding this into ultimately the Triton system.
That's
Triton
exactly right.
responsibility. This will be a complete reversal.
Agreed.
So the architects of the petition, do they have a different understanding of?
Well, I think, let me chime in here, because I think the architects of this looked at the work that they were able to accomplish with the playground, or are still accomplishing with the playground, and said, something else is wrong with the school, we'll go the same route. So they got a lot of backing behind it, said, this is what we need to do. And I think they don't recognize or realize the difference between what we own and what we're responsible for and the outside of the building. I think what would be appropriate here is to take this to Triton.
Yes.
And say, okay, we have this before us, but we think this is part of your budget, not our budget.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to wait to hear from the committee before I got in touch with the superintendent.
We brought that up with the superintendent who came to one of the FinCom committee at an introductory meeting talking about that. We've been dancing around this for the last 5 years as to the issues of the 3 schools, not just the Brown School, but there's a new Pine Grove School and Raleigh initiative going forward. We know that initially Salisbury was constructed because Triton stepped in, got better rates, so they own the building there. And they kind of danced around and say, well, how do we pay for it and all the rest? And there's inconsistency in ownership of the elementary schools within the district. And it's kind of like, it's not our issue, it's selectmen's issue to say, let's work out with Triton across the 3 towns, a standardization of who owns what facilities, because we are looking at some capital, we're staying with the big roof job, that we've put off and it seems to be holding forth. It isn't that we won't pay for it. It is just the fact that I think we need consistency between ownership of the entities from a fiscal point of view. And that's why it's not, and there was a little thing that bothered me because the way the money was divvied up, well, it goes into the capital requirements, and each town kind of pays a percentage of the capital requirements. And I walked away and said, aha, we're paying for some of the capital requirements in Salisbury School, which we never should be doing, but I think that's how it's happened. So we just, and of course now, with Pine Grove coming online with a new building, a new major construction phase, they also are owned by Triton. Not, I think they are as well. We're the only one not. I believe that's the way it goes.
I don't know.
I think that's the way. So I agree with you. You know, it's not, the issue is a valid one. I mean, gymnasium for the money's not that great. It's just an opportunity, you know, your point is well taken, to say, is this our responsibility under the present business arrangements that we have? If it is, we take care of it. If it is not, we don't.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Because I'm playing basketball, I want to make sure the ball bounces straight up, not off to the side, you know. It's a little negative reinforcement for your ball players say, oh yeah, nice try here, you can't even.
Yeah, I don't, that just seems to be miles away from where we're
Okay, so,
The question I have is, who do we contact about this to move this into the right sphere?
I can certainly get into go.
Town manager, as our representative on both committees, I think she can carry the issue forward to the selectmen saying, we have a capital requirement, just the circumstances, but an opportunity.
Yep.
We have a capital request that we're wrestling with for the gym floor, and we're confused over the issue of responsibility.
Okay.
We need you to weigh in on, and define the responsibility, not from me and here saying, okay, it's consistent, this is the way it's gonna be for 10 years. Because we've been talking about this for
As long as I've been here.
Yes.
Yeah, so this will go to the selectmen.
And I'd also make a call to the superintendent as well and discuss it with him and see what his
And you
recommendation
can come
Okay.
back with us with a definitive up
Sure.
or down, what way to go. It's not gonna be resolved in the time frame that we have to resolve this.
No.
I would support the 25K, you know, it's not an outlandish amount of money, but we just need clarification.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's on you, Tracy, and is there anything you need from us for that?
Nope.
Okay. All right. That was my note on that. We don't have any update on approved projects. What I'd like to do, though, is set up for a, while we have everybody here, I'd like to set up for our next meeting, and if we could do that in a little later on this month, get this on the docket, that would be great. Thursday mornings work?
Thursday works for me.
Okay. We could meet on the 15th, if that, I hate to get too much later than that in December.
It's fine.
Yeah, works for me. Okay.
How's that look for you, Frank?
good.
Okay, let's do the 15th then. And we will get, later on today, I'll get invitations, or you and I can get
Want me to
invitations.
schedule them for you? I'd be happy to do that.
I just want to make sure that they have the questions, and if they have any comments or questions about what we'd like to hear from them, that they can get back to either you or me.
Okay.
Okay?
We do have one other issue. You don't have a Form B before you, because I don't have any information to provide you. But we have recently closed on the 3 Morgan Ave property, the fire station. And that is going to need a sewer connection. We were well aware of that during the negotiations, and it's not a surprise. The, again, high-end estimate was somewhere around $300,000, but we are engaging an engineer work on the design.
It's such a short distance compared to what you had to go.
What we had to do before, I know.
Oh, that, I was,
I know.
because, you paid $300,000 to take it from Marble Street all the way down.
Well, almost 500, 469. But this is going to require
A lift.
lift.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we
Which is
haven't.
actually 2 lift pumps.
We haven't signed the contract with the engineer yet, but that will be in process. I'm not sure how long it's going to take them through the design, but there's a
Yeah,
possibility.
it's one of
we
the
could have that.
questions that I had coming forward. I think they were very impressed with only 4 requests. It's kind of the weakest request we've ever had.
Right.
The lowest amount of money,
Right.
we've ever had. Yet what seems to be missing is the gotchas. And my concern is what we don't have in the forecasting modality for the fire trucks. I know we've talked about that a little bit, and then, that's an issue. And forecasting the capital needs of equipment, because we did a study on maintenance, we did a
Yep.
study on staffing,
Yep.
and all the rest, and it seems to be, that's the next major hurdle. And the other thing that, we were gonna bring up, it's not necessarily part of capital planning, but it is essentially is the viability of Protection Fire Company and choose operation long-term. It would be wise to let that we're not gonna have to step in there like we stepped in on 2.
Oh, 1. Oh, okay.
Yeah, to say, are they, some consistency, and I think they've done a great job
Yep.
fiscally, saying they're viable to stay independent for the next 5 to 10 years. It's something along those lines. So we're not going to be, taking, even though it's a brand new facility, it's just, they can stay that they're viable fiscally. And somebody has audited its viability. Because I would like to know, because we're sitting there saying, oh, ups, we have a problem, and we need to step forward, we should have at least some planning time.
And just so you know, I did engage DMS to do the same building envelope study on that building that we've done on all our other buildings.
Great.
It hasn't been conducted yet, but that's in the works. And next Wednesday night at the fire hall, our consultant that did the analysis of all of our existing fire apparatus is going to be making his presentation to the Board of Selectmen, because I think that's a point very well taken. The fire apparatus is extremely expensive to purchase. That's something that hasn't been on our capital list in the past, so the addition of that is certainly going to weigh heavy on our plan.
And when is that being given?
Wednesday evening at 7.
Wednesday.
Yep, Wednesday evening at 7.
7, at Protection Company Route 2 Hall?
Yes, at the fire
Morgan
hall,
Ave.
3 Morgan Ave, yep.
Yeah, I mean,
At the town of Newbury Hall.
you raised a very interesting point. You're now spread across the town from one end to the other.
We are, so
Okay.
that'll be.
So that's going to be
good
given at 3
information.
Morgan Ave?
Yes.
Wednesday, 7 o'clock,
Yes.
this Wednesday? Okay.
Yes.
This coming Wednesday.
Yep.
Good. Okay, we don't have any other communications, and there are, looking at the audience, we have very few citizens here, as we normally have very few citizens here. Is there any other business that we have to,
Yeah, I have just a minor issue, which is, when Bob Connis was chairman, or when I first came on this committee, I'd get the emails, I'd print out all of the stuff, and then I'd arrive at the meeting and Bob would have a package, and I'd find that I'd wasted all that paper because he already had it. I want to just have a policy when either we're going to arrive at the meeting and all of the stuff that we're going to be looking at has been printed and is going to be laid out in front of us, or we should all bring our own. But one way or the other, it's,
I've done the same thing, and we can make it a policy. I made packets, I didn't think that Frank was going to make it here today, so I only made 4 packets of the rating forms, but
I'd be happy to have packets available for you when you arrive, if that's helpful.
as I said, I'm happy either way, I just want to know.
okay. Now,
Yeah.
my part, I do the packets and then make notes on them, so that, for instance, when we go through, I did the one on the field house, and I had quite a few questions on that, which we'll send back to the folks on the Recreation Committee. If it's not a big burden, or if you don't want to print them at all, I don't think we have to. You know, if you want them at home, fine, but having them here, we've all gone through them when we get them in email anyway. If you need to make notes or something, I think that's good enough.
Okay.
All right, well,
I don't want to do the extra, you know, here's more paper, here's more paper.
I agree, but I mean, for me, I'll print them out at home because I, like you, often want to take notes and.
One of the aspects of the previous capital planning meetings was the delving into the free cash status, as we look at, you know, what monies we have to spend. Is there some thoughts that at some point in time, town management will say, here's the budget for capital, and we should work within that budget?
Absolutely. That's the goal. The stabilization fund, much more than free cash, would be the vehicle to fund all of our capital improvements, with the exception of, you know, building a new high school or something significant like that. We'd look to borrowing in that case, but the goal is, with us making an annual appropriation into the stabilization fund, the goal would be that we would look at that 20-year plan, and each year of that plan, there should be at least enough money in the stabilization fund to fund the program. Again, exclusive of emergencies or something significant that we hadn't anticipated. We had nothing. We had zero. So we're kind of playing catch up at this point, so a lot of the purchases that we've made have been through free cash or other means, but at some point the goal is that the stabilization fund would be our capital funding vehicle.
I was privy to listen to your comments about the grant that the selectmen commented you are getting, that's $15,000 grant, and your explanation of what you plan to do with the grant. The one concern I got was the fact that they were going to be discussing policies and procedures around the operations of individual committees like this committee, standardizing that which we would be doing and how we would do our business. How much involvement will this committee have in understanding what's being proposed?
You'll have complete, what's going to happen is when it gets to draft format, then it's going to get kicked to you guys for comment, review, concerns,
Things that, you know, what is capital requirements, what fits in the budget.
Exactly.
I know we've had issues with the police cruiser. There should not be
roads,
you know, things of that nature.
What should the number be? Should it be 10,000? Should it be, all those
Correct,
things.
and I think that, you know, it isn't that what is recommended is outlandishly inappropriate.
No.
I just think that we don't want to wake up, I don't want to wake up one day and say, oh, by the way, here's your new capital plan.
No, it's going to come to the committee for approval before it goes to the selectmen.
And in truth, we did not pull these numbers from thin air.
Right.
A lot of this came from IRS regulations, and we use those as the
You're talking what numbers, the
capital, what is the capital, how long does it last, all of those things. Some pretty standard stuff.
We've been informed, I think, very rightfully so, the state has changed the definition of capital asset to saying it's no longer 10,000, it's 25,000. A few years ago, when we were running them up against some of the management, some of the selectmen proposed that we should have a capital mandate of 50,000 was the baseline. Anything below 50,000 was not for us to discuss. And we turned that back and said, no, we'll stay with what we got. But that was, at that time, an initiative to kind of remove some of the things that we were, discussing, like, a $7,000 mower would not fit under the requirements of capital equipment. Yet, I think it's a good thing because we have control the capital expenditure very well. We've funded quite a bit, and I think, and we continue to be involved in justifying our position that the money is well defined, well used, and necessary.
Documented.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's documented, and going back to tax guidelines, we've been very liberal at the $10,000 mark.
Oh yes.
Because we could capitalize things like $7,000, no problem.
Yeah.
Looking at that.
The other question I have is that we purchased work for the town ramp for
Yeah, it's not
$25,000. Yeah, it's not in, I drive by it, and every time it just piques my memory. I look over and I see this bunch of, is there an issue with it?
We have it, it's
Yeah.
just not installed yet. We're, the DPWs, we're trying to take a more comprehensive look at that whole area. There's been some tree work done, there's some issues with the pond, for lack of a better, I don't know what to call it.
No, the one that's.
Are you talking about the landing, right?
Oh,
The
yeah,
little
okay.
pond where we're talking
The
about
road goes by it.
how we might improve upon that, and clean up the whole area. So their goal is to get it installed in the spring, and we're also trying to going through the permitting process to replace the docks. That's been before this committee, I think, a number of times, but it was a previous harbor master before my time, and I guess the permitting expired, so I'm not sure the status, but they wanted to do
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Do you remember the
Yeah,
details?
there was, what happened was the Army Corps of Engineers
Oh, okay,
came down on it and said, you are not permitted through us
Okay.
for the size of the facility, and that's gone around and around, but it did not come before this committee.
okay.
So essentially, I know they're there, but you're waiting appropriate time and effort to install them in
They
the
wanted to
spring.
clean it all up first and
Good.
then do the installation, but I'm pretty sure we have the cement.
Oh, you
Yeah, they're
do?
all there.
Formed. Yeah, okay.
They're a nice big pile.
Yeah, that's, okay.
You can look at them.
But they're not installed yet, yeah. Yeah.
No, because I think, one of the things we considered that investment at the time.
Yep.
It was that we do have a very aggressive claiming industry.
Yes, we do.
And
Yeah.
it was kind of in a direct service to those guys,
Yeah.
that they could, get their boats in and out and, we'd be and get rid of the hot top that the state wanted us to get the hot top out of the water and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And now we just, I figure it was a question of just resources and time.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting, put them in.
Really?
Should be.
No idea.
No, but
Yeah.
having gone in and out of there at low tide, well,
It's tough.
go in and all of a sudden, went out into the trailer, drops off the end of the blacktop into a hole.
Yeah. And the fact that the ramp down is so rough actually has saved a number of vehicles. 'Cause
Yes.
if it
Oh,
wasn't-
really?
Well, if it wasn't, you'd be pulling cars out, or you'd be pulling trucks out of there left and right. The fact that it's so jagged, it gives you a little bit of traction to get out.
To be sure. Okay, is there anything else before us this morning?
Nope.
Not, I entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Second.
done.